And Kendrick circled back around and put out "They're Not Like Us."
Not Like Us.
That's over. That was over. It's done.
Over. Yeah,
that dude messed around and made a banger. He didn't shut the whole West Coast down with that.
That's right.
Drake is in trouble.
Yeah.
Drake is in major trouble.
Yeah.
They didn't went and shot up his house. Somebody tried to run in his crib. They didn't spray paint at the OVO store.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to go there. That's my thing. We don't need it. Let's just make it over. It's done. Kendrick won.
Yo, what's cracking? It's your boy, Big Court of the Holdin Court podcast and Legacy Builders. You already know what it is, man. We're here for another episode. We have my daughter. Producer Ken is sitting out today, but we got my lovely daughter, Rachel Renee. What's going on with you?
We back at it.
Yeah.
We black in effect.
Well, yeah, we super black today. I mean, I'm feeling empowered today, right? I feel like I just want to but before we get going, man, I just want to tell you guys and thank you guys as listening to us on all the streaming platforms. And also go to iambigcourt.com, check out Legacy Builders, which is my new community that focuses on mind, money, and motivation that my lovely daughter is helping me spearhead. So again, iambigcourt.com/legacy.
No, just iambigcourt.com.
iambigcourt.com. See, I'm taking cues from my daughter, bro. That's how that go when you get older. So y'all tap in with us right there. But yeah, today we have a special guest. Man, this is a very polarizing guy. Very, very polarizing. He's an author. He's a film producer. Could I say thought leader?
Yeah.
Yeah, thought leader and OG Mac. Okay, the Mac of the Macs, Mr. Tariq Nasheed.
My man.
What's good with you, brother?
Man, I'm here with you guys, ready to chop it up.
That's right, man. I've been watching you for some years, bro, and you taking the media by storm. Yep. Very polarizing. You get people talking. You ruffle feathers. You get people excited. Let me ask you, do you really call yourself a self-proclaimed race baiter?
I do, because I did that because...
Like you with the smoke.
If you Google the term race baiter, the white media would call me that so much, my name and picture would pop up.
Wow. Yeah. For real?
Yeah. If they literally a picture of me would pop up if you Googled race baiter. So I'll walk into it. I'll be a race baiter because they can't really define what a race baiter is.
What's your definition of a race baiter?
I made a definition of race baiter as somebody who expose racists. I bait them out and expose them. That's what a real race baiter is. Okay. They try to say a race baiter is somebody who brings up race when it's not relevant.
Right.
When is race not relevant in a system of white supremacy? It's always relevant. It's always constant. It's always a presence. This is what our good sister, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, tried to tell us, that systematic racism and white supremacy dominates all areas of people activity. So we always have to look at it from that standpoint.
Okay. Let me ask you, I just want to kind of go back to your history a little bit. You're from Detroit. Right?
Born in Detroit, raised down in Alabama. A lot of people from Detroit, Cleveland, Chicago, they come from Mississippi, Alabama, places like that. And that's where my family's originally from. And I was born in Detroit, stayed there for a few years, and then they sent me down to Birmingham, Alabama. Okay. And I lived there until I went to high school and just came on out to L.A.
Okay. So I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that I'm sure that race relations in Birmingham, Alabama, especially because are you a Gen Xer or are you kind of...
I think I'm a Gen Xer,
okay.
I think.
Okay. Because I think you are, because I think you're a few years older than me. Yeah. But with race relations down there, did that shape your outlook and your perspective on race relations being in Birmingham?
It did, and I have to let people know the real racism was when I came out to L.A., and I saw, people, there's a big misconception about the South.
The South, yes.
There's a real big misconception.
What is that?
They think that the South has a bunch of Klan members running around yelling all the time. Right. White people in the South are very polite because they're used to black people being around. Like, okay, black people, you're there, you're on those side of the tracks, but how you doing today? We'll see you at the job on Monday. They're very polite. They just, everybody has to know their place. The hostility comes in the North. Remember, a lot of the race riots in America happen in the North. Yes. All right. Race riots happen out here. Watch riots. Yes. And I noticed when I came out to LA, we were very segregated in LA. Yes. Black folks are, South Central. This was before everybody was going to Palmdale and Lancaster. But black people were segregated in LA. And the LAPD, they were operating like a Gestapo unit, policing everybody vigorously. It wasn't that bad in the South. So race relations around the country is pretty much the same. There's no place that has more or less racism.
You know what? I'll push back just a little bit because me coming from Missouri, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. And, you know, I moved out here to LA 22 years ago. In Kansas City, you're made to feel your color. You know what I mean? It's out here in LA, and it could be the times. I moved out here in the early 2000s. Out here, it seemed like it was more economic, you know, where in Kansas City, regardless if you play for the Chiefs, the Royals, you got money, they don't want your black ass out there. Whereas here in LA, it was kind of, because I moved to Brentwood, and I kind of got this feeling like, well, you're okay because you got money like us. You see what I'm saying?
Well, money, they'll trump the money, because look at what happened with OJ. OJ had money, and they were like, we're going to pin this murder on you that you didn't do. You understand? So they can trump that money thing. And also we got to understand, in California, they had what's called sundown towns. Like in the South, you got to be off the streets at a certain hour, you know, that type of thing. Here in California, especially in places like Glendale, Thousand Oaks, they were like, black folks ain't supposed to be here at all.
Glendale
was a sundown town.
Even
now,
it's
even Burbank,
you know, which is where we are right now. It's different. It's way different. It is.
I used to have a lot of problems.
I have to agree.
Yes.
I got to agree with him. No, because so I used to work a lot, and so we moved to Kansas City from here. So I went back to Kansas City as an adult, and I lived there for a couple years. So yes, I do feel like it is more classist out here. However, when I was working, I experienced more racism out here in LA than I did back in Kansas City, even down to my afro. I remember I applied to Express. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. I applied to Express, I think in Agora at the time, or Moor Park. And she told me, the lady said, well, you don't really fit our aesthetic. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Because I had on Express from head to toe. I had on my mom's Express head to toe. So I'm like, what do you mean I don't fit the aesthetic? And she literally like looked up at my hair, and it kind of, you know how they give you a reason that doesn't make sense. And this continued to happen like at a few places that I worked at, where even my hair was an issue. I never had a problem with braids, my fro, or anything. Actually in Kansas City, that was an issue out here and in Vegas.
I've dated girls. And out here, you're a good-looking lady, so they're going to really be funny style towards you at the workplace. You understand? They're going to be real funny. Because
she has had that issue.
Right, because if you are a black person, they want you to go in there looking like Gabby Sidibe. No disrespect. I always seem like I'm beating up on Gabby Sidibe. No, but they want you to go in there looking like Precious.
So they don't want you to be threatening. They don't like and it applies with us,
with
too.
men, too. With black men, if you go into a corporate America, you're going to have to go in there switching to a certain degree.
With a low ball fade.
Right. In many cases, you know. So the racism is very institutionalized out here too.
Was this something that was taught in your household, just in terms of black empowerment? Were these conversations?
No, it actually wasn't. Because I would ask my mother questions all the time, and she really couldn't give me answers. She couldn't point to anything to say, hey, read this book, read that book. So what she did, she just got me a whole bunch of encyclopedias. So I just started studying. like all these questions.
You're showing your age. I used to have to read used to read the encyclopedia too.
That's old school, family.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
That was Google before Google.
That was Google before Google. And it was about this thick.
Each book.
Yes, each book.
There's a whole volume of them. So man, I would just read all of these encyclopedias and just soak up game. And then when I went out into the world, I mean, certain things started to click and make sense, and I studied more. I started getting books by Dr. Welsing and John Henry Clark and other people to really let me know what was going on out here.
So it was just intrinsic in you. You just sought out knowledge and information.
I was a very inquisitive kid. I always wanted to know about race relations. I would always ask, who are the black people in the Bible? Just because as a child looking at television, things didn't seem right. You understand? And sometimes kids don't know how to articulate what's going on. They'll just see something and just kind of say, okay, if grown folks are showing me this, it's something that I'm supposed to be seeing. I would ask questions. I would say, okay, how come all the black people on TV are goofy acting? I would always wonder that. Why are all the black people working for other folks in these shows? Where are the black bosses? Where the black kings and queens? I would ask that type of stuff.
So What kept you from, I mean, because you say you spent some time in Detroit. In Birmingham, it's, it goes down in Birmingham too. And you came out to LA at what age?
17.
17.
Yeah, left high school, came on out, dropped out. I dropped out of school and came out here.
Oh, wow. Okay, so where'd you live out here in LA?
I lived in South Central Compton.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do music production. So I had little drum machines, and I said, let me go out to LA and, do some music. I'm a big hip hop fan.
You had the SP 1200?
That wasn't even out at the time.
Oh, damn.
I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was just the SP 12.
Okay.
At the time. That's real old school.
Yeah.
And you had the little 909 and the 707s at that time.
The 909, which was like a tom.
Right. So I kind of knew how to tinkle around with drum machines. So I said, let me go to LA, man, and get into the music production thing. And I came out here and just kind of found my way around and started soaking up the game.
So when you say soaking up the game, right? Is that the culture of LA? Is that street culture? Is that gang?
The street culture. They kind of looked out for me out here because when I came out, I didn't really know anybody.
Right.
I came out by myself. But the thing is, when you make a bold move like that, as a young person, you got the mental capacity to absorb any kind of failure you have. So I ain't got a car, I ain't got a crib, but I'm 17, so I ride a bike around if I need to. I don't have any big bills, I don't have a mortgage, so that was something that I could kind of float around with. But I got around a lot of street cats out here, and the street game was real heavy in the late 80s.
Yes,
real
sir.
heavy.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
How did you navigate the gangs and the gang politics out here and not get wrapped up in that?
Oh, I learned very, very quickly about the gang politics. So I was cool and clicked in with certain sets of guys, and I was always neutral. I had blood friends, Crip friends, and they just kind of showed me how things went down out here and just kind of let me know where to go, where not to go, what to do, what not to do. And I just got around a lot of the hustlers and learned a lot of stuff from them. People think, man, that a lot of street dudes are just a bunch of dumb nincompoops. Look, back in those days in the 80s, early 90s, a lot of the street guys were way more intelligent than a lot of people like to give them credit for.
This is facts.
Yeah.
Yes.
My good buddy Freeway Rick was very active around that time. For him to have that kind of distribution, and we're not promoting that at all.
But that's right.
But our brother Rick was illiterate.
Yes.
He didn't know how to read. And this brother created a multi-million-dollar
business empire
network nationwide
with a lot of moving parts.
Yes, indeed. And
logistics,
and was able to lay low.
Yeah.
And then invest in legitimate businesses and in the music industry. I know he was responsible for the Alcoholics and all types of different groups. But to have that type of energy, that's something that's commendable. Just to have that kind of mind, and to be able to do something like that vast.
Yes. I've always said that. I agree with you 100%. A lot of the hustlers, they make great businessmen, for the ingenuity and being able to think outside the box. Me coming from that world, same thing. It's not easy. People think that it's easy money. It is not at all. And it is kind of like running logistics, you have so many things that you have to consider. You got payroll, it's a lot of stuff, that goes into that. So you kind of lean, it seems as if you lean more toward, like you said, the hustling, the macking. Who were you around? Who did you meet that really influenced you to, absorb that ideology?
There was a lot of very popular hustlers at the time, well-known street guys that I was around and just soaking up game from all avenues of the street life, from the gangbangers, from the hustlers, the Macs. A very good friend of mine was like one of the best boosters in town. He was like a professional booster. This guy made hundreds of thousands of dollars boosting clothes.
Wow.
So I had a lot of people with very interesting enterprises out there, but I learned from everybody. I learned from everybody. And I noticed a lot of the street dudes, man, those guys in their spare time would read books and study a lot. And they would give me books on different things. That's how I got put on to Dr. Welsing. A drug dealer put me on to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. Yeah.
Wow.
A drug dealer. Yeah. So a lot of cats in the game, man, if you're smart, you're trying to figure out ways to get out.
That's right.
So they're trying to set up something, an exit strategy all the time, if they're smart.
Yes.
See, the guys who get caught are the ones who get addicted to this shit and then don't want to get out.
That's right.
You kind of get set in your ways and you're going to get caught eventually.
You get comfortable,
You're going to get comfortable and get up out of here eventually.
No, that's correct. So would you say that you becoming an avid reader during that time, is that what prompted you to want to become an author?
Yeah, it did. It did. I read a whole bunch of books, and I would stay at the library over in Hollywood and just study that all the time because, I was going in and out of different apartments, or, I was kind of homeless at one time because I didn't have no credit, didn't have no money. So I would just kind of kick it at the library until I can get up with my hustle buddies that night and just kind of soak up game around them. After a while, when I got myself together, I used a lot of the knowledge I got from those books to do my first book, The Art of Mackin'. And that book was an answer to all of those simp books that were coming out in the late 90s. In the late 90s, there were a lot of the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. There was a whole big wave of those books. Remember those?
I know, yes.
And those books would give horrible advice. They were bestsellers, but the advice wasn't that good. It was telling men to be overly sensitive and hug your woman 3 times a day. And it was telling dudes that. And women don't really like that. They don't like overly sensitive, overly available dudes. You got to have some type of psychological challenge.
An edge. You got to have some kind of edge.
Right.
This is facts.
Right. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do a book that's going to be completely opposite of all that. The Art of Damn Mackin'. Just unapologetic. And at that time when I did the book, I mean, that oh my God, how dare you? This is misogynistic. It was that type of thing. Men were being shamed for being overly masculine. It was that toxic masculinity stuff. So I just got a lot of game that I learned from the street dudes and a lot of the game I learned from reading in the library and these encyclopedias, and just talked about how me and my buddies would go meet women at the club and chop up game and what worked and what didn't work. And man, the book became a huge bestseller at the time. The book, we put it out with a publishing company out of Chicago called Frontline. It was a very small imprint, and the book sold like 250,000 copies.
Oh, wow.
So all of the major book companies started hitting me up like, hey, how the hell do you do that? Without us. Because when you start making moves like that without the corporate structure, they're going to come to you fast and try to get some game. So I got a couple of other book deals with Simon & Schuster. I got another book deal with Penguin to write more books. So that's just how my thing got started.
So you use a lot of lingo that comes from the ism. You know what I mean? Was that something that you ever flirted with?
No, I was around a lot of those guys. Again, I was around drug dealers, pimps, hustlers, the Gangsta Browns, a lot of those Bay Area dudes, Rosebud, Hollywood.
Fillmore Slam.
All that, Fillmore. I got pictures with me in Fillmore back in the day. So I would be around that whole thing, man. Anybody who touched anything with the streets, I knew them. I was cool with them. And I learned something too, man. Being around those street cats, you had to have a certain set of rules and principles that you live by. You just couldn't be some kind of janky, sometimey type of person, because that would put your life in danger being around street dudes. So I saw that you were forced to have some level of integrity if you're going to be in the streets.
Your word is your word.
Your word is your word. And being a liar or being somebody who's not trustworthy, you can end up missing very quickly because the street rules are very, very different.
Do you feel like men of today need the art of macking?
They do. They do, because what happens now, you got the internet that takes care of everything. So a lot of these dudes don't even have to go out here and touch grass. You can be online all the time saying bull, and there ain't no repercussions. Whereas you can't say no bull on the street.
That's right.
Right.
Real talk. Real talk. I always say, man.
And then people think he's younger. So it's like,
who
I'm
are you
older.
talking
I don't know what
to?
do.
Man, listen, you got to pay for your words. That's where we come
Real
from.
talk.
You know what I mean? When you say something, you got to be able to say it twice. You know, like you can't, like cyberbullying. What?
I agree, because men, I think having that swagger and that confidence is important, not only in, obviously with women and amongst other men, but when you get to navigating corporate arenas too, because you can't go in there with this beggar energy or this, I feel less than. Like, you need to come in there with your chest poked out, and you will garner a lot of respect, I think, because that's how I feel as a woman too, when a man really fully assumes that.
Yes, indeed. And on the internet, man, when guys try to talk to women, it's a different thing. They just try to get in your DM and just give you a bunch of compliments and emojis. That's not game.
Back in the day, we had to be in front of you. You got to see that it wasn't it was a representative to an extent, but you got to see the swag, the body movement had to match what was coming out your mouth, the energy had to match. Now you can just paint whatever picture you want. And
you would have to adjust your game to the woman's emotions. If you're talking to a woman in person, you have to feel her reaction. Exactly. You got to look at her facial expressions.
That's right.
Her posture. Is she leaning? You got to soak in and calculate all of that when you're talking to somebody and take that in consideration. Right. Now, these dudes, here's my ding-a-ling. It's goofy right now. It's so goofy right now.
Like, who taught you this?
Excuse me, dear. I'm saying bad words around children.
No,
sorry.
She's good. She's good. That's funny. So let me ask you. So with the art of macking, and my daughter put me up on the red pill shit. I didn't even know what red pill was till she laced me, right?
Yeah.
Would that be considered? Is that the
no?
that
I wouldn't say
no. That red pill stuff is kind of new. That men going their own way, red pill.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of that stuff is low key incel stuff. These are dudes, who are
because Max like women.
They do. Yeah. Some of these dudes out here who are trying to be red pill guys, they don't really like women because these were like former nerds who got on.
These were the
nerds. Yeah, these were the nerdy dudes.
Okay.
So what happens is they get like a little platform online.
Yeah.
They say a bunch of crazy stuff and get a bunch of views. So now that looks like there's some type of authoritative figures.
Yeah.
And all they do is sit up there and just bash women. Like them. Don't get me started with them dudes.
Who's? Go ahead. Say what you want to say. Who is that? But lace me. Put me up on it.
Yeah. You haven't heard of these guys?
No. Who are they?
God, I don't want to promote the. I
don't even know what to say.
I don't want to promote these dudes, but these are some guys who they have a podcast and they get women on there and they just talk real crazy and reckless to women.
Oh wow! Okay.
And I have a beef with them. They say,
for real?
They say take a little shots.
Know that.
Oh yeah, I got a beef with those guys.
Okay.
Oh wow!
Because they talk a lot of shit about Black Americans. They're like, one guy's from his family's from, and the other guy's from.
Okay.
So they get on there talking about Black Americans are lazy. They on that shit.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, that's why I really got a problem.
Shit,
with
I didn't know
guys.
that.
Yeah, they on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna bleep out their name. You
know okay,
We'll talk. We talk. So speaking of which, you are a strong advocate for the culture for Black people in general. Talk to me about the FBA. Foundational Black America. What prompted you to create that and that whole thing?
Well, it's just a name that I came up with, our lineage. Our brother Dr. Claude Anderson, great scholar, great philosopher. He's written a lot of books, and he's always talked about how Native Black Americans, meaning the people who descended from slavery here, that we are a very unique group of people. He's been saying that for decades, and I'm a big student of his. And when we're talking about reparations, we talk about who it's for. I would often use the term Native Black American, but sometimes people thought we were talking about Indians who were mixed with Black. So there was native. The word Native. So I said, let me get another word in there that makes a little more sense, like foundational Black American.
Yes.
So we are literally Black people who are descended from slaves in America. We are the foundation of this country. There would not be an America without us, and we're the only non-immigrant group here. So our lineage is very unique. And then we have a lot of people who try to attack our lineage. They say, well, y'all Black Americans don't have culture. We are literally the culture of America. Everything that's positive about American culture comes from foundational Black Americans. So it's basically a celebration of our lineage.
Okay, got you. So I know you're a strong proponent for reparations, do you think that we would ever get reparations?
Absolutely. We're going to get reparations. All we have to do is be focused. We can get anything we want to get as foundational Black Americans because we have, as long as we stay focused and codified. During slavery, you had people saying, you never going to get free. These people ain't going to free you. Black people were having rebellions all over this country. Florida, they pretty much stopped slavery. The people who stopped slavery was the Black Seminoles down there. They damn near burned down all the plantations there. Then they sent them to Oklahoma. Many Black people who were Maroons actually fought in the Civil War. The Civil War would not have been won by the Union unless they had those Black people fighting. So we were freeing ourselves and contributing to the freedom of ourselves. And whatever we put our mind to, we can get taken care of. They say we will never get civil rights. We can never get equal housing and all. We got that. All we got to do is stay focused on it.
You brought something interesting up that I want to touch on a little bit before you get into your question, because they never talk about this. I like how you brought up that there were multiple revolts in slavery, because they act like it's just Nat Turner and that we were just sitting for hundreds of years just hoping and Massa would, just let us go one day. So can you elaborate a little bit more on just the history of us trying to liberate ourselves?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I feel like knowing that is a little bit more powerful than just like, oh, it was just the white man beating us down.
Yeah, and anytime they talk about us getting freedom, they talk about like Harriet Tubman, which she was a writer, but Harriet was working with the white church. So they like to talk about the white abolitionists who helped certain people. But we were freeing ourselves in slavery. One of the biggest slave or former slave communities that we had was the Great Dismal Swamp in North Carolina and Virginia. That was a sanctuary city that we created where white people couldn't go into it. If white people went into that swamp, they would get killed, and they couldn't find where the settlements were. And that place never took an L. There were thousands of black people who lived there. White historians really don't like talking about it. They went and set up the Blackwater private police agency is set up over there because they send Navy SEALs into the swamp to study and learn reconnaissance and learn what we did. So we were freeing ourselves. We had communities of people freeing ourselves. We had maroon communities in New Orleans, St. Malo. That was a place where you had black maroons freeing themselves. Like I said, the Seminole Wars was a black war. That was really black people who were freeing themselves down in Florida. So there's a lot of our history they don't talk about. They don't like to talk about the rebellions that we had. Even going up into the 1960s, the reason the civil rights bills got passed, you had black organizations putting in work. Everybody wasn't getting beaten on in Selma and getting dogs put on them. You had black organizations hijacking planes that they don't like talking about. They were blowing up police stations like up in the Bay. They were kidnapping cops. They were doing all types of stuff that's not talked about in the mainstream media today.
Wow. So what does reparations look like to you? What do you think that should be?
It should look the same as what they do with Native Americans, the red Native Americans. The same thing. You allocate checks the same way, allocate land grants where we get to choose a certain area where we're going to call our own land. You make us tax-free. We don't have to pay taxes. Give us the same kind of casinos as the Native Americans. Give us, allow us to have our own police force, our own hospitals. When I went to Arizona recently, those Native Americans got it popping out there. Own police force, own schools, all federally subsidized. We need the same thing.
Now, I have a question in regards to that.
Yeah.
Now, how would that be? Because you said something too that I feel like a lot of people don't like to talk about as far as like indigenous or native blacks, as you say, versus the African blacks. Now, do you think that all of them descended from slavery, or do you think that there were some blacks already here? Because that would also change who could possibly get reparations and who couldn't.
Now, there were definitely black people already here, 100%.
I agree.
We had African brothers and sisters who came over, and we're all mixed in. They just relabeled the Africans who came over. Whatever tribe you were from, you're just a Negro now. The black Aboriginals, whatever native tribe you're from, you're just a Negro now. And just put all the people classified as Negro in one bunch, and that became foundational Black Americans. So
it would be that group.
Right, it'd be that group, that group. We're going to trace the people's names back to the 1870 censuses. So if your name can go to the census in 1870, that means you come from foundational Black American lineage, and that would qualify you for reparations.
You think education should be included in that too?
No, because we can get our own education.
Okay.
Because the thing is,
so does that mean we have our own institutions?
We can we can get our own education, because we do this thing where they want to give us school vouchers or something like that. They'll start giving those to everybody, and they didn't take school vouchers from us. They took money from us. When we were on them plantations, these people made billions of dollars and built up all types of institutions. Every institution in America, it was ground rooted in slavery, from the medical industry, the banking industry, the railroad industry, the Wall Street. Wall Street was a slave market. All of it came from us, literally every piece of it. So they need to give us what they took from us, which is money, and then we can get whatever we need on our own.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. You know, you have a lot of influence and power with your words, and you used your platform and your influence responsibly. But with your messaging, you know, we have to acknowledge the powers that be probably don't like that.
Oh, they don't.
So have you had visits from the FBI, the CIA, or have you found yourself in their crosshairs?
Oh yeah, FBI several times.
Okay.
Several times they
really?
visited me. Oh yeah.
Yeah. What happened with that?
The first time they visited me, they came to me in 2016 asking about Micah Johnson. There was a brother down in Dallas who just started busting on cops. And they started asking a lot of influencers, what did we know about this guy? Did we know him? Were we a part of an organization with him? They wanted to make sure that there was not some kind of secret network of people influencing folks to go out here and target folks.
Wow.
So yeah, I never met this dude. But they thought, okay, you're an influential guy, so we're just double checking, and they just kind of wanted to let me know that I'm on their radar. Yeah,
wow.
So they've done that a couple of times.
Okay, is that, and I mean, of course, you know, you coming from the environment, we used to looming threats, but does that type of threat kind of make you a little uneasy sometimes?
It is, but I expect it. I mean, I expect it. What activist wasn't investigated by the FBI?
Right, that's a fact. That's a fact.
So that's going to happen. When you start, hell, even if you're not an activist, they're going to investigate you and look into you. Yeah,
especially when you have influence. Because I think a lot of times, especially when it's funny how if you had a negative, if your message was basically continue to kill each other and do all of that, they don't care. Right. But if you have a message of positivity and forward progression, it's like, hold on, you know, he might get them to do right. But then also, we don't know, once he has their minds, he may tell them to do some other too, and they'll listen. You know,
when I first started doing my books, I would be in all the media. I would be on all the major television shows, all the NBC shows, VH1, MTV. They were literally trying to give me a talk show at one point. So I was all over the place. They were glowing reviews. New York Times give me phenomenal reviews for my books. I only started getting negative press when I started doing the Hidden Colors movies.
Yes.
When I did Hidden Colors,
let's talk about
Black
that.
history.
Yeah.
Then I became a race baiter, polarizing, anti this. That's when I became negative in the white media. The minute I wanted to help Black people out. Because at the time, I wanted to do the Hidden Colors series. I started doing that in 2010 because the images of us were so bad around 2008, 2009. The movies that were coming out was Precious, The Blind Side, The Help. And these were horrible images of Black people. But they made white people feel good. It was always this white savior thing going to these downtrodden Black people and, get the crack pipe out of here. Let me show you how to play football. Is that like... And I just got so sick and tired of seeing those images, man. And I got my children, I don't want them seeing that bull. They have to have some kind of balance. And we had this whole thing, man, we need to get somebody to do some movies. Oh, why not? Okay, I'll do the shit. Damn. It ain't that hard to get a camera.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Right.
So then I said, let me put my books on hold. Let me get into this because I've done a lot of television stuff with my books. And I would learn a lot of stuff. I'm always ear hustling and eye hustling, seeing who's doing what. So the people that I would do stuff with VH1 and MTV, I said, hey, I got a film project. I need a cameraman. I need an editor. I need a colorist. So I would get these people and staff them up, and we did the first Hidden Colors movie. And nothing has ever been done like that before. Nothing. Where you get a bunch of scholars that talk unapologetically about a myriad of Black history tidbits. Because I understood at the time, we have a short attention span because of the internet, because we're looking at stuff on Twitter and Instagram. So our attention spans are short. So I wanted to do a movie that just every few seconds hits you with some different Black history nonstop. So we did Hidden Colors 1. We didn't know how it was going to be received. We had a screening. I went to the screening here in LA, and I'm in the very front with a hat on high because this shit is whack.
Just in case,
I'm going to slip out the exit door. And man, the movie was like 2 hours. I'm like, damn, is it too long? And the people saw that movie and lost their minds, man. People saw it and didn't even want to leave the theater. People just sat there for about 30 minutes almost in shock, like they had to psychologically debrief. And that film series just became huge. And I did 5 installments of that.
Wow. And not to mention you produced and financed those.
Oh, yeah. That's another thing. When we did Hidden Colors, there was something new. Crowdfunding was new. That was very new at the time. Kickstarter just got started.
Right.
Where if they said if you want to make a project and you want to get people involved, you can crowdfund. I said, okay, let me try this out. I said, look, I told my audience, if you guys can get us 20 grand on Kickstarter, I'll float the rest. And we got the 20 grand in like a month, and bam, that was it.
So I know recently as I was kind of researching you, you've been catching flack, which I guess you're used to, you know what I mean? I mean, when you make change, that's just what comes with it. I know it was people talking about how you were saying that you didn't feel the need to speak up about the whole Palestine thing, because basically that's their business. Let them figure it out, right? So explain that position. I mean, it's self-explanatory.
Right. Yeah, this whole thing, there's a lot of people trying to shame Black Americans, us in particular, to pick a side with this Palestine-Israel thing. And what they're trying to do is get us out here so that we can receive the blunt of the abuse. Because a lot of these people, these white people, they don't like cops pushing them around. They don't like criticism from the media. They don't like cops telling them what to do. They don't like cops pepper spraying. They don't like it. They don't like abuse. But when we go out there, they know that that's going to gravitate towards us. So they're always trying to get us to go out here and fight for these other people's conflicts. And another thing, they understand foundational Black Americans, we have moral capital that other people don't have, meaning we have a legitimate gripe and we have legitimate icons who are internationally recognized. So when we say, hey, we support this issue, the world is going to look at it because we have more moral standing. A lot of these other groups, they don't have the moral standing that we have. So the world is like, okay, let them figure out what they're doing and let them do it on their own. So they're always trying to drag us in the mix. And I'm saying that Black folk, we don't need to let folks have us work as their mules. Let them fight out their own conflicts, because when we have stuff going on, ain't nobody coming to save us.
They don't.
Ain't nobody doing a damn thing for us.
They don't. No.
In fact, they're against us.
Right.
And with Palestine and Israel, look, some of the cops that abuse us, they're trained by Israelis.
Yes.
The Palestinians, hell, there was some Palestinian store owners who called the police on George Floyd. You see? So they haven't really been friends of us like that. So we have no dog in the fight.
Right.
So
what do you think is the greatest challenge that Black people are faced with now? What plagues our culture? I mean, we made great advancements, obviously, but what do you think is our biggest hurdle? Is it us, or is it still a system that's oppressing us?
Right. If it's us, what's inherently flawed about us? Can't be us. Can't be just us. These other groups who come over here, when you go look at their homelands, they don't really have it popping until they get over here.
Right.
You understand? So it's the circumstances. It's the system that's created. The system will sabotage certain groups and will not sabotage others. For example, some of these other groups, they come over here and they can get businesses and they're help with businesses. And they can do all types of janky things within their businesses. And law enforcement will look the other way.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
With us, even if we're 100% legit,
we're scrutinized. We're held to a different standard, more stringent standard.
There's a business down in Texas, the Turkey Leg Hut, and very successful. And those brothers and sisters, man, they've been getting harassed, fined for just all types of random frivolous stuff. This happened to Black businesses all the time. Going back to the Black Wall Streets, Central Avenue here in LA, that was a very prosperous Black area. Then they built the freeway over there and kind of thwarted and uprooted that, which is what they're doing to Crenshaw now. A lot of the Black businesses were uprooted because they're putting the train thing down there. So we've always been sabotaged like that.
Right.
Going back to Crenshaw, brothers and sisters used to barbecue and sell barbecue and fish plates and stuff on the streets. They didn't stop that. You got to have a certain permit, but they don't do that to some of these new people who come over here. They don't do that to them. So we got to understand how we as Black people are specifically sabotaged by the dominant society, and that's our problem. We have to learn how to protect ourselves and insulate ourselves from the white supremacists trying to sabotage us.
So you think the sabotage, I know it comes from several different ways, but, speaking to our culture, they've done a number on us mentally.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? The social engineering of it. How do you think, what can we do to fix our circumstances? And when I'm talking about the Chicago, the violence in Chicago, the violence in LA. Like, what could we do, and how can we help the youngsters kind of make different choices and understand what you and I know from this vantage point?
We have to understand the importance of empowerment. And again, why are we in the certain circumstances that we're in? It's a lack of resources. Why do we have a lack of resources? We've seen out here in Los Angeles, some of the people on the city council, we've heard private tapes of them literally plotting against the black community, plotting to take money from our communities. We have to look and see why we're put in certain positions, why we have to move out to the Inland Empire in order to afford a house. Who's orchestrating this stuff? You understand? This is orchestrated by people, man. Once we start understanding people are doing this stuff to us, we can learn how to navigate around it. That's how we get on code with each other. We built something in South Central called the Hidden History Museum, 100% grassroots. I raised $1 million on Indiegogo. It took like 30 days. It was unprecedented. When I raised that $1 million, boy, they start sending agents and agent provocateurs all over the place. Man, they came out of the woodworks. But we got it done, and we got the Hidden History Museum down there, man. We put our own artifacts in there, our own murals. We have events there all the time. And they play the little permit game with us all the time. Oh, you got to get the liquor license. Oh, you got to get this permit. So we understood that going in, we were going to get it. So we just have to be prepared for that.
So I'm with you 100% with everything you said. But right? I'm kind of trying to get it, but you already know where I'm going to it, right? So my brother, I agree with all of that, but I still want to say accountability. What could we be doing different? What do you suggest? Because let's just face it, everything ain't that. Some is making choices. You know what I'm saying? So
now give an example. See, let's break it down. So
okay.
So like what? Like
okay, so go ahead.
Okay, no,
go ahead.
okay. So I was gonna ask, okay, like socially, like even with the men and women today, even when we look at marriage rates, the nuclear family, right? In my opinion, as even a woman navigating men of today, or let's just say our community, black men of today, there's no white devil sitting on their shoulder with these everyday choices that they're making. Men still are creating broken homes. Men are still, out here philandering, passing out diseases like candy. You know what I mean? There's still, even now, we have more statistics coming out. More men are refusing to work now. There may be a lot of other variables in there, like mental health and, maybe wanting to try entrepreneurship. I can give leeway for that. But socially, we can all agree that we are not in a healthy ecosystem as far as each other.
Now, why are we
absent the white devil that's here? Because there's no white devil sitting on the shoulder of these men on an everyday basis.
And I'm gonna let you go because I can't wait to hear it. Can't wait to hear it. But I agree with everything you're saying. I agree with what you said. Yeah. But even when you go to, we've made advancements, as a culture, we have, right? We're able to get money. Even if you look at the entertainment aspect, even if you look at our athletes, and everybody makes mistakes in life, so we're all growing. But if it comes back to resource, we have plenty prominent, people of color and black folks that have risen above and transcended the circumstances of the hood and not having resources, yet will still perpetuate and make the same bad choices as if they're back here in the hood with nothing. You know what I mean? So it's almost like, even if you go to the rappers, right? And I mean, I don't really want to use them, but we'll use them. Let's just say they make it out the hood, they get a couple $1 million, yet the mentality doesn't change. You see what I'm saying? They still doing the same thing. So are we to say that this is, some type of design or plot, or are we just making, we celebrate destructive culture? Tell me your thoughts.
That is called being human. We are human.
This is true.
We are not infallible.
This is right.
Yeah. We have a God-given right to do some dumb shit every now and then.
That's right.
The problem is everybody does dumb shit.
Yes.
The white boys do the dumb shit too.
Yes.
They're just not punished for it.
Yes.
See, they're kind of given a pass. They're like, okay, he's a lone wolf. But if a black person does some dumb shit, well, it's a culture thing, which is not a culture thing. They try to blame it on our culture.
I disagree. I disagree. Because I'll tell you why. I mean, because I was a part of it. You know what I mean? I was a part of it. So if you think about it, okay, for instance, I was raised on love, not survival. So I come from a household where in my house, education was a focal point. I was loved. I was, I had all of that. But when I step outside, now this could kind of speak to what you're saying. There's an environment created from this system, right? But even within that environment, there's a celebration of destruction. I know because I was a part of it. You know what I mean? So I wasn't taught it. I wasn't born with that. I wasn't born, prone to criminality or anything. It was a learned behavior, but we celebrated it. The more people we shot, the more we got down on we celebrate a cat coming home from doing 10, 15 more than we do a dude that just going to college. You know what I'm saying? So, and again, I'm not, because in the comments they're gonna call me Uncle Ruckus. I'm not saying that shit, right? But just having the conversation, because I've been fortunate enough to be there. But then when I was able to transcend that circumstance, it was my mentality that had to change. But I had to do the work. You see, and I'll be honest with you. I didn't grow up. Listen, when I was in the hood, or even now, I'm gonna be honest with you. My biggest threat that I see when I go out is usually somebody that look like me. It's not. I'm just being real. You know what I'm saying? If I got on some jewelry or I'm going or doing something, it's usually somebody that look like me that I'm
gonna disagree with that, because black criminality is only regulated really to a certain area. You understand?
I agree. There's no such thing as black on black crime.
Right.
Chinese people kill Chinese people in China. Mexican people kill Mexican people. People kill who they're around. It's proximity. I understand that. I get that. But what I'm speaking to is just there is a thing in us, because I've had to fix it in my own mind.
Even outside of those spaces.
Outside of those spaces, I've had to fix it. That's what I'm saying. When I moved to LA, I moved to Brentwood, right? I remember 22 years ago, I mean, I come from gangbang culture, so I still kind of had that aura. I remember standing in line somewhere, and I'm just looking at a cat. There's all these white people around, and I'm looking at a brother, and I'm picking him apart in my head. I'm just, man, look at this. Look at this square. Like, man, this dude a goofy. Like, and I had to think to myself, why am I doing that?
Right,
I don't even know him. And that's where it clicked for me. But for so long, because we celebrated that. We celebrated, stepping on each other, man. Because think about it. When the police come, we'll run. You know what I'm saying? We'll run right past white folks and knock one of us down. So what can we do to fix that? And I'm speaking from being in it at a
because
time.
Typically, a part of foundational black American culture, that type of cutthroat thing, that's only regulated to a certain area.
Yeah.
Generally, we as foundational black Americans, when we see each other publicly, there's an unspoken acknowledgement. Hey, I see you, brother. I see you. If anything go down, we got each other's back. That's usually how we grew up.
I'm talking about the generation now.
I understand
now,
I'm
born in the 70s, but coming up in the 80s and the 90s, that wasn't what it was. So going back to what I said, it's a destructive culture. There is. We have to acknowledge it. There is a destructive culture that we celebrate amongst us. We do. And I think that has to be fixed. You know what I mean? Like, even I just told a youngster the other day, we were talking about just conflict resolution amongst us, and I was like, back in my day, we shot the fade. We shot a fair one, nobody dies. You get up, go your way. He was like, nah, OG, that's some old, you know what I mean? Like, I might fight my homeboy, but nah, anybody else, I'm just going to shoot that. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow. So I said, but you do understand that if you do that, when you go to jail, you're going to be fighting for the rest of your life. There ain't no guns. So, the mathematics says go ahead and lose this fight, because you're going to lose 100 of them in jail for the next 50 years.
But the thing is, black people, less than 1% of black people, and there's 40 million of us, I think less than 40% of us have a criminal record. Oftentimes, the dominant society will judge black society on the lowest common denominator, and then we mess around and start doing that. So we'll look at the sagging pants dude drinking a 40 ounce as black culture, and that's a mistake. Our culture is very vast.
Yes, we're not a monolith.
We're not. I was talking about Sexy Red the other day, the rapper. She's from y'all place. They keep showing her all the time.
Yep.
And the only issue I have with that is that they don't have a balance to Sexy Red no more.
I agree.
You see?
I agree.
If you don't have a balance, Sexy Red becomes the culture.
Yes.
Because this is what a lot of white supremacists like to do. They like to point to her and say, oh, look at black culture.
Yes.
That's the only one you're promoting.
Yes.
Going into the 90s, we had our version of Sexy Red, which was Foxy Brown and Lil' Kim.
And Choice.
Right, and Choice from, But the thing is, to balance that, you had Queen Latifah, MC Lyte, Yo-Yo, Invokes, Shantae Moore. You had a whole bunch of people who could balance that ratchetness out. So we have to.
That's a fact.
And I don't knock ratchetness. No. I done laid up with a ratchet too.
Listen.
Ratchets are fun.
Sexy Red, her music, man, them beats be jamming.
The song, I'm not.
Shit be jamming.
The song knocks.
I agree though.
The song knocks. But yeah. Having her as the prototype for black women, that is dangerous.
Yes,
so we got to also understand balance is very important.
You are correct.
That's my thing.
You are
and
correct.
I don't judge us by the lowest common denominator because we're more than just the hood.
That's right.
There's a whole bunch of black people out here, man. Again, we're the only group of people who have internationally respected icons.
Yes.
No other group has icons like the Dr. Kings, the Malcolm X's, the Rosa Parks, the Nat Turners, the Harriet Tubmans. Nobody has that like us, internationally recognized. I learned this when I would travel around the world. People would see a black American. They were like, oh, my God. I've never seen one of you before in my life. You know, they would be in awe. It's like they're seeing a god almost. So we got to understand the positives of our culture.
That's right.
And how it's perceived nation or worldwide.
And
I have a question.
Go ahead, daughter.
Oh, no, I was going to say, so I have not a question, but kind of a statement leading into a question. So with your installments with Hidden Colors, I did see the first two when they came out because my mom, like literally all the authors, the books that you have, she probably has the same library. She's very militant. Oh, yeah. But I think that it's important for black people as a collective, when we look back at our history and slavery, to look back at it at a more analytical perspective.
Absolutely.
And more of a business mind. And even more, I'm trying to understand people's pathology, because I do agree, you do see it today. I do believe in, generational traumas, even on a scientific DNA level. I can acknowledge that. But I think that analyzing it and seeing how, as it pertains to now, is more empowering than just us, one, letting the lower, I won't say the lower tier of us, but the more chaotic side of us be the pervasive culture and what is, what represents us. And then also just being able to, like you said, provide balance. So now and today, what would you like to see? Just saying all of that, what would you like to see with our generation as it pertains to just assuming just more power in where we are now, because we do have access to technology and more resources than your generations.
I want to see more balance. I want to see more of us get into tech, more of us get into corporate structures, more of us getting into entrepreneurship. I want us to own more. I'm a big proponent of that. Independent media, like what you're doing here.
Absolutely.
This is extremely important.
Absolutely.
So that we can have sensible conversations like this, because a lot of times when we have media structures like this on YouTube and all of this run by other people, they instigate a lot of bullshit.
They do, and they author the narrative. You are absolutely
this is what I'm saying. A lot of bullshit that comes from us, we got to look and see who's orchestrating that stuff and call that out.
That's right. That's right. And going back to what you said, that was a great question, daughter. Going back to what you said, I agree. And you kind of opened my eyes to something, because what happens is, especially with social media and the media, you will get inundated with the smallest percentage, the most wretched part of our culture. It would seem like that represents kind of what it is. You see what I'm saying? Which, my intelligent mind know that that's not true, but that's all that's pushed in front of you. We don't see, the geniuses and the people that got 4-5 degrees and the people with the successful business. And then people don't care about that. People tend to, respond to the BS. Oh, this shooting, that shooting, this robbery, oh, this and this and that, and,
you
and the
see
third.
It reflected in the algorithms.
Yes.
And I agree with what you're saying. I don't dismiss what you're saying about personal responsibility.
Yes.
Because I want folks to know, listen, we live under a system of white supremacy. And if you go out, don't use that as an excuse to do something stupid as hell.
Right.
You as a man, not to rob that other black person, or just don't do this.
Right.
Just don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
I done dealt with slavery all my life. Don't put the gun down.
No, that's
what I'm saying?
That's right.
It's just common sense.
You have an iPhone 13.
Right.
Yeah.
Just don't do dumb. But we got to understand some people are going to do dumb.
Yes.
And I don't want that to be our culture.
That is true.
Because it's something, because we don't co-sign generally. We don't really like we don't like people doing that dumb.
No, that's right.
Because we're victims of it oftentimes.
Exactly.
We're the victims of it.
That's my point. That's my point. And that's why I created this platform. It was to humanize us. It was to show us in the better light. It's cool. Like, I've had the gangsters, the drug kingpins, from Hollywood to the streets on. But I wanted to let's peel back the layers of why you made those choices, how we got there. Let's not just exploit it like, oh yeah, boy, how many bodies you got? You've been shot 10 times. Wow. You know, like let's talk about why those things happen, you know, and then maybe somebody can learn something. Yeah. But what I want to ask you as well is, what are your thoughts on gentrification?
Gentrification, man, that's a part of white supremacy. That's what they do. They systematically move us around. That's what that is. And you know what's funny with gentrification, we talk about the conservative white supremacists. Really, those left-wing white supremacists are the main ones who gentrify black areas. You go down to South Central now, you see a lot of white people down there jogging.
That's right. With their dogs.
With their dogs. Yeah. That's the first warning sign. That's the first warning sign.
That's real dog.
You see them jogging in black areas with them dogs, you better understand what's going to happen. They're going to start meeting each other. They're going to start meeting each other. Then they're going to start having kids. And when they have them white kids, they're not sending them to Crenshaw. All right? And if they send them to Crenshaw, the black folks are going to have to move, and they're going to change the name of Crenshaw. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do to black areas. Yeah. So it's a very, very real thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about your new project.
Yes.
Microphone Check. Talk to us about that.
Man, I'm a historian, and I'm a big hip hop fan. Yeah. Big fan of the culture. And they just had the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And because hip hop is a very positive thing now, they're trying to give credit to everybody else now, which is a problem. And we saw that with the 50th anniversary. They kept doing these things at the White House, and people like Kamala Harris kept saying stuff like, well, yeah, hip-hop is a combination of African beats and Caribbean rhythms and Latino grooves.
Yeah, like where you get that from?
What you talking about?
Yeah, hip hop is break beats, like samples. What are you talking
funk
about?
Music. Yeah. So we, the people who created it, they completely leave us out of it.
Right.
So there's been a lot of misconceptions about hip hop, and that's been very deliberate, because now that it's positive, they try to erase our input out of it and try to give it to other people. So we have to start gatekeeping our culture.
I was just about to ask, do you feel like we should start gatekeeping our culture a little bit more? And I'm asking because of this Drake and Kendrick beef.
Right, because that's what that's about, gatekeeping the culture. And also, again, all of our music genres that we created, we have to start gatekeeping them again, because we've let people take ownership of the things we created so long. Yeah. They have a sense of entitlement to it, and they act funny when we take it back, like our good sister Beyonce with the country record. They're looking at her like she's a guest in country. That's a genre that we created. She's reclaiming it, as we should.
Just like rock and roll.
Just like just like jazz. You know, they did the same thing with jazz. They try to say it came from Italians. That's not true.
Shout out to Kenny G. He's dope.
Right.
But it's ours.
Right. So the thing is that they're trying to do the same gentrification with hip hop now, and we're saying no, you're not going to do that. So I got this film, man. We got all of the pioneers who were there in the 70s. Wow. Because this was very important to take it on from the standpoint of what went down in the 70s. Usually when they do hip hop documentaries, they'll talk about Kool Herc's party, and then they'll skip to like 85. You know, they'll just skip over a whole decade.
They'll do Sugar Hill, and then
right.
85.
And then the Rocksteady crew, and then
and Run DMC.
They don't tell you what happened after that party, what happened a little bit before. Okay, who was at the party? They don't tell you all that. We're telling you all of that stuff. We're telling you who was there, who was before. We got the first breakdancer, Trixie. It's a dude named Trixie.
It wasn't Crazy Legs.
Wasn't Crazy Legs. Okay. It was the dude who was breakdancing in the early 70s.
Damn, okay.
The first hip-hop MC, Coke La Rock. Another one of the first people to rap over records, DJ Hollywood. This is another person that people...
I've heard of him.
Yeah. Very underrated dude. Everybody was kind of getting their rhyme cadences from him, even Melly Mel. Melly Mel is in the movie too. Right. We got the first female rapper, MC Shy-Rock. Phenomenal sister. She actually changed the cadence of how people rap. Oh, wow. Because in the 70s, people were trying to sound like radio DJs. They would rap like, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. I walk up the street, I use the stairs. They would rap like that. So
was that off the dome?
Yeah, I was thinking that. So everybody had that baritone thing going. So since she was a girl, she couldn't do that. So she would rap in her natural voice, and it sounded fly. So that was the voice inflection that everybody started to run with. So again, all of this, we got the first person to do graffiti. The first graffiti artist, a guy named Cornbread out of Philly. Nice. He started doing graffiti in the 60s. Then it came to the Bronx then. Oh, man, it's a phenomenal piece. We got...
DJ Scratch.
Who do we have? We have Cool D. It's a guy named Cool D who was a very influential DJ in the early '70s. We just so many phenomenal people.
You know what?
Grandmaster Caz, he's in the movie.
Caz.
Yeah.
I would just randomly. Who started Fat Laces?
There's a lot of different stories. Some people said it was a Puerto Rican cat who started that. Some people said who came later in the 80s with the Fat Laces. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I used to love Fat Laces.
Yeah,
in the 80s. That was just, I'm talking about people.
He laced my Superman
Nike.
He said he checkerboarded it with the Fat Laces.
Them. You
he
know?
was like, this fly right there. I used to do that.
But I think a Puerto Rican cat actually did that.
Okay. So that's pretty much the roll call for Microphone Check.
Yeah, some of the people, man. We we got so many phenomenal people.
And you produced and
financed
it. Oh man, that's big. Bro.
Yeah.
I mean, to go to theaters, that's a whole nother business model than just going to Tubi.
Right. And luckily, man, with the Hidden Colors series, I got a great relationship with distributors like Landmark, and so they look out and put it on out there for me. So it's a good deal.
I want to kind of go back to gentrification a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, and there's a reason I'm saying this. I mean, you're a producer, you're a content filmmaker. You have gentrification of obviously property, real estate, and you have gentrification of content too, as it pertains to Tubi and Fox, using Black people to build up, using the culture to build it up and then moving them out, which is the same thing going on kind of somewhat with Tubi and Fox. But going back to, do you think that it's gentrification can work if the natives, if the people can share in it?
Yeah, but that's the whole thing of gentrification. Gentrification is an act of warfare. Slavery was gentrification. Okay, you got to understand. They used us to build up a nation so they can be comfortable, and then they could move us somewhere out of sight, out of mind. That's all gentrification is. It's a form of white supremacy where you get the people that you're exploiting to make it comfortable for you, and then you move them somewhere. Going back to the network thing, the UPN network got started like that. They got Black shows because they understand we make things hot and popular. Once it gets hot and popular, they see how to work the algorithms. Okay, let's put some Black shows over here. Let's phase them out and get some white shows. They did it with Fox, UPN. They do that with brands, clothing brands. I think with Timberland, Black people made that hot. And they were acting funny style towards Black people for a long time. Even some of the liquor brands were acting funny towards Black people until we start saying, okay, we'll get our own liquor deal. So then they wanted to get act right. You know? So there's always been that.
Okay, but say for instance, if you have like in the neighborhoods, you've had Black families that own their properties for 50, 60 years, right? Where, it took a dive because obviously, the comps may be $80,000. But because of gentrification, because they brought in Whole Foods and what is it, the coffee shop, you know what I mean? Now their comps have shot up, 80%. But also now those property taxes go up, which is oftentimes is a problem, But if they're able to keep up the property tax, I mean, could it be looked upon as a good thing?
Yeah, but again, when they want to get you up out of there, man, they'll go to extreme measures. Let's go back to L.A., man. Out here in L.A., South Central, they got a lot of the Black businesses out of there.
Yeah.
They would raise the rent, especially in Inglewood. They was making the rent sky high. Why? They got the stadium over there. So now that raises the property value. They want more whites over there in that area. So what do you have? You got a brother like Nipsey Hussle, who starts a business over here on Slauson and Crenshaw. Yeah. They got a train station going down Crenshaw. So it's like big money is happening in that area. The property value is going to rise up. Also, we got the Olympics coming out here in a few years. That's going to rise up everything. People don't understand how they were trying to get Nipsey out of that area. They don't understand the depths of what the LAPD was doing. They had an operation called Operation Laser, where they were focusing on Nipsey's shop. They were doing surveillance on his shop, putting nuisance injunctions on him. That's another thing they do down with Black businesses. They say if there's gang members around, if there's crime around, they'll put a nuisance injunction on your business. Yeah. So they were doing stuff like that to Nipsey. They were working with the city to try to get that plaza to boot him out. Nipsey turned around and bought the whole plaza. Bought the whole thing. Right after that, he mysteriously gets shot in broad damn daylight. And it takes them 3 days to find this guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that looked funny style to a lot of people.
Yeah.
What's also interesting, black people were trying to buy the Crenshaw Mall. They had a bid. They let a white company come in with less money and get it.
Yes.
What's interesting, the guy who was a part of that bidding, who got the contract, he was an executive at Warner. A lot of folks don't know this. And Warner owns Nipsey's catalog. I don't know if that's connected. I don't know. When I just see all this shit all together, I'm like, okay,
strange and provocative.
It's a little bit too strange for me. Some of this
Yeah.
stuff is too strange, but y'all just have at it.
Yeah.
Put it together and make sense out of it.
I thought Magic Johnson was trying to buy the Crenshaw Mall.
Yeah, I think he was. He had the theater over there.
Right.
He had that theater over there for years.
Okay.
And again, when we start trying to buy stuff and own stuff, all of a sudden deaths and charges pop up. I talked to Bill Cosby. Just called me earlier, right before I came in. I talked to
Bill Cosby.
Yeah, Bill Cosby. I talk to Bill Cosby all the time.
Oh, so that little flex, right?
I know.
You see what I'm saying? Just it's nothing. You know what I mean? You know, Bill Cosby. You know, we talk all the time. Yeah.
But he was telling me about when he was trying to buy NBC and some of the funny style stuff that was going on. They had the money. They started giving him all types of excuses and runarounds. And right after that, his son gets killed on Mulholland.
I remember that.
You know? By a Russian white supremacist.
Wow.
A lot of folks don't know that. Right after that, then they sent the ransom note to Cosby, trying to extort him out of money with this other woman claiming to be his daughter. All of that stuff happened at the same time.
Wow.
The woman, could y'all remember?
Yeah.
When the woman actually went to jail for
Yeah.
trying to extort him.
Yes.
Her mother is part of that whole sex bull.
Okay.
Where they said that, he drugged or whatever. Her mother's a part of that. So they've been going after this dude. A lot of folks don't know this stuff.
Wow. So do you think that's what's happening with Puffy, with Diddy?
I think so too.
Okay.
I think, because I don't like people jumping the gun, because people were like, why are you caping for Puffy? No, I'm not just caping, but Puffy, what has he been accused of? You raided this man's house and didn't charge him with nothing. So we got to look at that. Sounds like they were trying to find something that he had on somebody else.
Okay.
You understand? And also with Puffy, when you have black people who are in certain positions, they kind of have to make an example out of them and kind of get that resource back from them.
Buck breaking.
Yeah, they got a buck breaking.
Yeah.
They, like Eddie Griffin said, they don't let a lot of black men out of here clean. They're going to try to make sure you don't pass down no generational wealth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you think? Do you think that? Do you think that it's a conspiracy to kind of take these powerful people down, or do you think they just f***ing up?
No, I think it's 50-50. I think that, and the reason why I say it's 50-50, that because yes, I think there's always a looming threat of the powers that think they can be, or whatever, because I just feel like we can transcend all that. However, yes, I do feel like that there can be a concerted effort, because there is power and influence. There's power in cultural influence, and because Black Americans specifically, going way back to the beginning of the conversation, but we really set the tone around the world.
Yes, we do.
So if you say even with Africans, they even will, take on our culture, our lingo, the way we dress, everything, our likeness. So we definitely, with knowing the cultural and the international influence that we have, it's not too far-fetched for me to think that if I'm running a business and I know that I can generate millions of dollars. I mean, we see it even with TikTok. Okay, for example, let's look at the TikTok ban. They literally have not been able to provide any reason as to why they want to ban TikTok, besides we don't think that it should be okay for a foreign entity to have the influence. That's all we keep hearing, is the influence over our American culture. So we understand how influence can be monetized. We understand how that can affect, every facet of life, and how it translates. Your energy is currency, it's money. So I don't think it's far-fetched to think that people say, no, you got to get him out of here, because we can gauge just based off of what you've done and what you can't do. We can make out XYZ what happened. Yeah, black influence has always been a threat. Any black person who is influential, they have to control them, because they understand, especially with foundational Black Americans, because we come from the soil, we can impact more people. Even before the internet, we could learn a dance in Kansas City, and that dance will be in California in about 3 days without the internet. We knew how to communicate with each other, and we knew how to influence each other, and we still know how to do that. And that can be a good thing to the dominant society, and they can look at that as being a bad thing. As we saw with the George Floyd riots in the country, the whole country turned up, and they look at stuff like that as a threat. And if they look at black people who got the power to shut down a riot,
they say this nigga can start one too. So we got to kind of look at this guy and kind of keep a leash on him or discredit this person. That's another thing. Because when they see a black person has a lot of influence, they got to put some dirt on them so that they can kind of say, hey, if you go out here and get too bad, we're going to tell people about the little sex crimes that you guys have been accused of.
And they understand generational power, perception, everything. That's why I think it's important to look at history from that lens of just analyzing, because it will repeat itself, you know, especially because we do have the media, and the same way it can move faster for us, it can move faster for them. And they can, you know, when I say they, once again, the powers that be, the systems, everything, even Hollywood is an extension of the government, but it's like looking at a sales forecast to me for the next 5 to 10 years. Like the USA is a corporation, so it's not far-fetched once again to say, okay, listen, in the next 50 to 100 years, if we want to be in this position, this is what we have to do. These are the factors, because it's a business and we are all just human capital walking around.
Yeah, but there's always been a thing to stop black generational wealth. Because they understand black kids with an economic equality, you're going to thrive. They understand that economic deprivation causes a lot of issues. So they don't want anybody to be able to pass something down. That's why they take our homes. This is where gentrification comes in. Right. Because people can use those homes. You can go get a second mortgage.
Exactly.
You want to go help your kid in college. Exactly. Your house is money. Your property is money.
Launch a business,
you can start
business,
real time. And also some of the family members, they going through something, they come stay at grandma's house for a year and get back on your feet.
That's a fact.
They don't want that.
That's a fact.
So this is why they come in with this eminent domain, gentrification, this. We're going to buy you out and we're going to do urban renewal. We're going to turn this into a landfill and move you into these nice housing projects. This is just temporarily, and temporarily stays, you know, you're there for 30, 40 years.
But why do you think that back in the day, because, and you're right, there were so many black Wall Streets all over the country. Why do you think that they were at that time under more harsh conditions, I would say? I would say. Why do you think that the outliers of that time were able to do that versus, do you think we're just scared to do it now, to replicate that?
You know what happened? They were forced to build for themselves because they couldn't go into white neighborhoods. That's the thing. We could not go into their neighborhoods, especially at night.
You weren't for
no, I'm all about, because the thing is, we're already segregated. We're already segregated. So we have to use the right words. The problem wasn't segregation, it was white supremacy, because we thought the opposite of segregation would be integration. But what if we integrated? All we did was give them our money. We just integrated our money to them.
That's a fact.
We don't live in their area still, but we just go there, give them our money, and then we have to go back to the hood. You know?
Yeah, that's a fact. So
the problem was white supremacy, not integration. I always use the Rosa Parks example. When people talk about Rosa Parks, they try to make it seem like segregation was something that was equal, that black people couldn't go here and white people couldn't go there. When Rosa Parks was on the bus, she wasn't trying to move to the front of the bus. There's a myth that she was trying to go to the white section. That's not true. She was already in the colored section, but the rule was white people could sit in the colored section too if the white section got too full. Rosa told the white man to kiss her black ass. That's when the problem came in. So white people still had access to the color section.
Right.
They had always had access to the black community.
Right.
The red light district. They've always came into our community and exploited us.
Yeah.
So the problem is never really segregation, because we're already segregated. It was white supremacy.
Yeah, you know, it's funny that you said that, because I always felt like the redlining.
Yeah.
That was so impactful, especially with our generation, because it kept us out of so many things. Like you said, your house, especially back then, could be used almost like a credit card.
Oh yeah.
You know, but because we weren't able to buy homes or even get loans, you know, a lot of kids weren't able to go to college because you know, you were able to pull money out of your house, send your kids to college, go on family vacations, which broadens the kids' horizons. You know what I mean? So that I always feel like that redlining, especially for my generation, that started it right there. You know, that was devastating. Yeah. You know.
And you know what's interesting, when we get a little, we thrive with it. Yeah. Right after World War II, you know, a lot of black people were moving to the northern cities to work some of those military connected jobs, like you work in factories to build things for the military. This was popular in Detroit with Chrysler, and Ohio. I think even Missouri. You know, you had some of those factories there. In the late 60s, when our families were able to kind of get some of those jobs, we started to get a strive going on. We started to see black kids in the 60s get instruments for music. This is why funk was really created. Especially in Ohio. Many of the funk bands came out of Ohio.
Right. That's right.
Like dozens of them. Slave,
Dayton, all of that.
Right?
Dayton, Ohio.
Roger, Lakeside, so many of them. And that was because their families were working at these factories. They were able to get homes. They could have garages. They could practice somewhere. That's right. And they started creating whole new music genres just on that little bit of leeway. So if we get a little, they know that we can take it to a whole different level.
Right. I want to go back to something we said earlier, gatekeeping, right? We need to you feel like we need to, which I can understand. I agree to an extent. We need to gatekeep some of our stuff. What are your thoughts on guests in our culture? One, it's a two-part question. One, many considering Eminem to be the GOAT of hip hop. Do you think that is even possible? And then two, in our media space, Vlad, DJ Vlad, do you think that Vlad is a culture vulture, or do you feel like he rightfully has a space and something to offer in this space?
Very good questions. First thing with Eminem, I think Eminem is very good. I'm a fan of Eminem. I think Eminem he's not the greatest, not with Rakim and Nas walking around here. Eminem is good, not with Scarface and Cube.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying?
Especially Scarface.
You dig?
You know
People really sleep on it. Yeah, that's my brother. People sleep on Face.
Shout out to Face.
So that's different. His stuff hits different.
Yeah, that's right.
Lyrical guy, that's clever, but Face, that shit hits you.
That's right.
You feel that shit.
That's right.
So that's different. There's a different energy and spirit that a Nas and a Rakim is going to get you. It's a whole different energy, and it's coming from a consciousness too. Scarface, very conscious guy.
Yes.
I mean, this guy, he's more radical than me.
Yeah.
You talk to this guy.
Yeah. Shout out to the brand.
Shout out, that brother, he's with it.
Yeah.
Rakim, very this brother helped bring consciousness into hip hop again. Eminem, he's good, but he doesn't bring that element, and that's a very important element.
He doesn't bear the burden of culture. But
right. But he's good.
Yeah.
There's some good white R&B singers.
Yes, for sure.
You ain't Luther Vandross, but you're good.
Shout out to Michael McDonald.
I'm
gonna be there.
So we give credit. So these are still guests in the culture.
Yes.
They're still guests in our culture. Now going to the Vlads. Many people consider him a vulture, and he does a lot of vulturous things.
Okay.
That's not hip hop, and this is rightfully so. Why people should look at it a certain way. Putting people in positions where they can get indicted, that's not hip hop. And we as journalists, I've had Nipsey on my broadcast before, and I talk about this all the time. I wouldn't ask Nipsey anything that he would say that would get circle back on him.
That's right.
Even when we're talking, he was saying something, and I knew where he was going. I said, let's talk about this.
Exactly.
I'm not going to even let you put yourself in that.
And you know the culture too.
Right.
Yeah.
We're from the same culture. And just the rule of the streets.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to sit up with somebody and say, well, so you rob people. What kind of gun did you use?
Yeah.
Did you have 3 bullets? Were they hollow point?
Friday?
Right.
Was you chilling?
Yeah.
Just even ask that ain't hip hop. That's not hip hop.
Right. I agree.
So people have a right to call that out. That's vulturing. And Vlad has been labeled a vulture. And what does a vulture do? A vulture will kill something and then eat the carcass. They look at something to exploit and kill it and make money off the exploitation of it. That's what a vulture does. It kills something and eats the dead carcass.
But are we responsible? Because we're inviting everybody to the cookout.
Right.
You know
That's
what I mean? And we keep celebrating it. It's I'm sure he has a predominantly 80% African-American subscription base.
I would say most of it is white.
I will too. Because they vicariously want to, they are entertained by our trauma.
They are.
They're entertained by our trauma.
That's it. Y'all better understand a lot of these hip hop blogs
That's a fact.
are watched by white people. White people buy more hip hop.
Now that I know.
Especially when you get to a certain point. Like when you independent and you a couple 100,000, that's the community. But once you start going gold and platinum and multi-platinum, them are all others. That's all others.
Now, why do you think that we feel the need to, do you think that we seek as a collective validation when when the outsider comes to our culture and says, oh, this is cool, we do like this, they're cool, and that's why we're like that as a collective?
We see that white platforms are usually built to expand more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though if the content ain't that great,
right,
their content isn't suppressed. Like black content,
that's true.
Oh, that's
we
a
don't
fact.
get pushed like they
No,
do.
we
They don't push us in the algorithms.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying?
I could talk another hour about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
You
know.
feeling that too?
Oh yeah, I already know.
Okay. All right.
We get people,
I knew I wasn't crazy.
They unsubscribe people to
Yes.
our stuff.
Yes.
You know, they do little shit like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they oversubscribe to the white
Yeah,
platform.
they won't send our content to our subscribers a week later.
Yeah,
you know, shit like that.
When I'm on live, I get people all the time coming in the room. Oh man, I didn't even get a notification.
That's right. That's a fact.
They do that. That's
fact.
not by accident.
That's a fact.
They do that to us. But if you scroll down YouTube, they promote some of these other white platforms. I mean, without you even looking for them. So they get a leg up that we don't get. So I understand certain people want to go on their platforms because they get more views sometimes.
Exactly.
So I get that. Yeah. But I say if you go on these platforms, don't let them finesse you into getting yourself indicted.
That's right.
You know, watch what the hell you say.
And also, let me say this too, especially me being in this space. And Holdin Court has, you know, we've built up a solid reputation and a fan base. Cool. Go to Vlad. Go to No Jumper. You know, get your, you know, if you're selling something, you know, go get out there. But don't act like that's the marker and the measure and then not come to Holdin Court.
Right.
Or don't go sit down with Tariq. You see what I'm saying? And think, oh, nah, you know, I do Vlad. I'm not going to do yours. You know what I'm saying?
I've seen people act like that too.
I have too. I just didn't want to call no names.
Right,
but it's a few people that I'm cool with that I'm like, damn, you always too busy for me. But you on Vlad every month. Like, what the fuck is that?
Man, there was some comics, because we at our museum, we have a comedy night, real popular. And there was some comics that be on Vlad, and we wanted them to come do some, and they were kind of little, I'm doing some stuff with Vlad, and it was that type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, what you trying to say, dude?
Right. Yeah, and I'm not saying don't do it. That's fine. Like, go ahead, go, do that, but don't not come sit down with your brother. Don't come down and come and not sit down with the culture for real. You know what I mean? So I have that's what I take umbrage with. Cool, go do your media thing, but
Yeah, and sometimes, man, some black folks out here think white is better. Well, I get the same amount of views as Vlad on my channel. I get the same amount of views, and I just usually just do me.
Right.
So a lot of these folks can't use the excuse of numbers.
Yeah.
It's just if I'm sitting here with a white guy co-signing me, that's something special to me.
Right.
They don't want to say that.
Right. I think you're right.
I
think you're right.
Yeah.
So lastly, I ain't gonna keep you too long,
Yes,
brother.
sir.
Let's talk about real quick, because you kind of mentioned it earlier, the Kendrick and Drake thing.
Yeah, man.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Man, at first, I had it a tie at first.
Yeah.
I had it a tie at first when Drake did Family Matters. Not bad.
Yeah.
The beat ain't bad. Kendrick came right out with the Meet the Grams. I said, okay. All right. I said the only thing that Drake has on Kendrick is, Drake's song is kind of a club thing.
Yeah.
And Kendrick circled back around and put out "They're Not Like Us."
Not like us.
That's
It's
over.
over.
That was over. It's
It's
done.
over. Yeah,
that
yeah,
dude
yeah.
messed around and made a banger. He didn't shut the whole West Coast down with that.
That's right.
Drake is in trouble.
Yeah.
Drake is in major trouble.
Yeah.
They didn't went and shot up his house. Somebody tried to run in his crib. They didn't spray paint at the OVO store.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to go there. That's my thing. We don't need it. Let's just make this over. It's done. Kendrick won. Leave it alone. Let it go, because I don't want this thing to spill over.
Yeah.
Shout out to J. Cole. He said, let me get the hell up out of here.
No, that's real.
Because I see this might go somewhere.
Yeah.
So I want them to be good.
Yeah.
There was the heart, though. Drake did a response.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
The heart where he said, I fed you all this information.
Yeah. He should have tapped out.
Yeah.
I think that's his tap out record.
I think, you know what? Coming from my generation, I think this whole battle been sassy. I think it's two pillow talking sassy. You know what I mean? Because I can appreciate, the slick talk. I can appreciate, some talk. I come from, Ice-T, Kool Moe D, Ice-T LL, and all the Ice Cube and NWA. Yeah. But when you start talking about folks' kids,
that I didn't like.
You see, when you start really getting too personal, because certain things are said apology can't fix, and it gotta be some smoke when we cross. You know what I mean? And now you don't even have to worry about. It's not them; it's the people around them. Now
with that, do you think Tupac crossed the line when he did Hit 'Em Up, talking about I done smashed ask your wife.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And we see how things unfold. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
So
you have to be accountable for what you say. Like it's cool and nowadays, because of social media, as we talked about at first, like there's no line, because everybody can throw rocks and hide their hands.
Right.
People can talk on social media and never cross paths in 10 years. Never, I've seen it. There's been people that said about me. Where do you live? Where you be? You know what I mean? I'm trying to holler at you. I never see you.
Right.
So I think that's where it becomes dangerous. I think a healthy hip hop battle, that's cool. You know what I mean? Some good talking, some gangster shit, that's cool when it's in right context, but now I think it's too, some of that stuff is too vitriolic and you can't come back from it.
One of the first major hip hop battle was with Busy B and Kool Moe Dee. Speaking of Kool Moe Dee, Busy B is in Microphone Check, by the way. He's in that movie, and he told me he felt like fighting. Because Kool Moe Dee got in his ass,
and that was basically your rhymes are weak.
Right,
I rap the best. You're whack.
It wasn't even like personal. What about your kids? I didn't
it wasn't
smash
even
your wife.
your ugly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Your kids are retarded.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Busy was like, he cut me, man. I wanted to scrap low key.
That's right. So imagine now.
Right.
And then you have to, then this is the thing too. It's like being in high school. You say these things. It's different if someone disrespects you and nobody's around. But when you do it in front of the whole school, it's like, okay, now we got to fight. Somebody got to do something.
And now you got a whole coast of people yelling, "Hovio, Hovio." That's bad, man. That's bad.
No, that is. That's nasty work. That's nasty work right there.
But I hope they work it out.
Yeah. Maybe they will. I mean, they're too. They ain't the grimiest of the grimy, you know what I mean? So they both have some sense. So maybe we need Jay Prince. We need Jay Prince to step in. He usually can fix this type of.
Yeah.
Shout out to old man. Where you at, Jay Prince? Like, come fix these. Hey, but real quick, I just want to get a message from you real quick. I have a new community that I created called Legacy Builders that focuses on mind, money, and motivation, basically. So, can you give a message with all that you've encountered in your personal life, in the business, give a message about the importance of just mindset, how important your mindset has been for you to get to where you are and then to continue on and keep that hunger.
Yeah, your mindset, man, the way you think and the way you view yourself, that's the most important thing. When I did my book, The Art of Mackin', the book was 80% about how men can carry themselves. That's where all the comes from. I told people my book is not about using magic words and sorcery. That's not how you get women. Women choose you based on how you carry yourself. When you walk in the room with a certain level of confidence, you ain't got to say nothing and they'll start choosing you. It's all about the way you view and think about yourself. That's the most important thing. And confidence is all about trusting yourself. Yep. You have to be the kind of person, when you say something, you're going to do what you're going to say.
That's right.
When you have that kind of mindset, that's confidence, and then people can see that in you and they'll gravitate towards you. That's how you build your brand. People have confidence in you and your brand. They know that you're going to come through with quality material all the time. I like your broadcasts. That's one of the few that I've done. I don't do too many.
Thank you, brother.
I saw Ice. Again, Ice is my guy. When I see some of the real ones on, I'm like, he's a real one there.
Yeah,
because
Ice right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yep.
I see the company that people keep.
That's right.
You understand?
That's
and that's very important.
Yep.
You want to have that kind of reputation of a person of integrity who other people can vouch and co-sign, and other reputable people can kind of pop their collar to.
That's right.
So always have a respectable mindset for yourself and your brand.
Man, that's a great message.
Yes,
and that's real. That's real.
Yes, sir.
Hey, well, listen, man, we appreciate you, my brother. You always welcome here, man.
Absolutely.
I love what you do, so don't be a stranger.
Man, anytime, brother.
Yes, sir. Hey, Holdin Court Podcast, Big Court. Rachel Renee, producer Ken, off camera. He's still in the building, though. And Tariq Nasheed. Hey, peace. We out of here.